What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Lab Collective podcast. Before we get started, I first want to give a huge congratulations to the University of Dayton Doctor of Physical Therapy program class of 2026. You guys are entering the profession at an exciting time, but also a challenging one. Sports medicine, performance rehab, strength and conditioning integration, technology, and athlete development are all evolving rapidly, and there's a massive opportunity for clinicians who are willing to continue learning, adapting, and building strong relationships with their communities. Graduating is a huge accomplishment. Residency, boards, mentorship, networking, all of that comes later. Take a second, please, and just appreciate the fact that you guys made it through one of the hardest educational paths out there. And honestly, this episode is really for you guys. Proud of you all. For the newer clinicians, residency grads, and students trying to figure out how to navigate the sports medicine world, once the structure of school's done, it's gone, it ends, real practice begins. Because sometimes there's a massive gap between what you learn in residency, what social media tells you sports medicine looks like, and what actual day-to-day clinical practice feels like and flows like. And I think a lot of younger clinicians hit that transition and realize pretty quickly, oh, this is a little more complicated than I thought. Maybe my clinical instructor was shielding me from a few of the trials and tribulations of actual clinical practice. So you can have all the research in the world, but eventually you still have to build trust, communicate with people, manage difficult situations, navigate clinic culture, and prove your value in a competitive environment. So today, what I really want to talk to you guys about is how you can go about differentiating yourself as a young sports clinician, maybe what board certifications to look into, networking, dealing with outdated systems, balancing volume with quality care, and how to actually break into sports medicine the right way. And honestly, this isn't going to be one of those episodes where I pretend everything in our profession is perfect, because it's not. There are great things about sports physical therapy. There are also frustrations and realities and growing pains that nobody really prepares you for. So hopefully this gives a little bit more of an honest perspective. Let's get into it. One of the biggest misconceptions I see from younger clinicians is this idea that once I finish residency, people will automatically see me differently. And the reality is this. Most people outside of physical therapy have absolutely no idea what residency training even means. Athletes don't know. The parents don't know. Many coaches don't know. Even some surgeons may not fully understand how intensive residency training actually is. So if you're a residency trained clinician, your challenge becomes this. How do I make my skill set visible? Because the letters alone are not enough. What actually separates high-level sports clinicians is usually this: communication, organization, your exercise prescription, your progressions, confidence, clinical reasoning, and the ability to bridge the rehab and performance gap. Athletes recognize competency very quickly. They're going to look into who can coach a movement, who understands training, who can modify without panicking, and who can progress them confidently. We don't want that clinician who just gives random exercises without any direction. There's no rhyme to reason. And honestly, one thing I think residency programs do very well is expose clinicians to complexity. Not just injuries, but the ability and the chance for decision making. So the question becomes, when do you push? When do you pull back? How do you progress exposure? How do you load tendons? How do you transition from rehab to performance? That stuff all matters. But again, you have to make it visible, because nobody walks into your clinic saying, I heard you passed the SCS. They walk in saying, can you help me get back to my sport? That's the language that they care about. I also think younger clinicians underestimate how much athletes value confidence and organization. They don't want arrogance. They want confidence. There's a huge difference there. Athletes want to feel guided. They need structure. They want to feel understood and progressing towards something. And honestly, this is why I think clinicians need to spend more time understanding, listening, paying attention. We need to be a student of whatever sport, whatever niche you want to be a part of, whether that's lifting, sprinting, emphasizing change of direction, conditioning, force production, what have you. any different type of training system, what sport they fall into. Because if your rehab completely falls apart once the athlete starts moving fast or lifting heavy, you're not really bridging that gap. And that gap is where a lot of sports PTs still struggle. So let's talk about board certification, because this is another topic that gets misunderstood constantly. Does an OCS or an SCS matter? Yes, absolutely. But probably not in the way many younger clinicians would think. Board certification gives you credibility. It demonstrates a commitment to learning, advanced study, professional investment, and competency. Especially with surgeons, this can help. It tells people this clinician took the profession seriously and wanted to specialize. That matters. That's huge. But here's the important part. Credentials may open doors, but they don't keep the doors open. What keeps referral relationships alive is communication, reliability, outcomes, the patient's experience, and trust. A surgeon is going to continue referring to the clinician who communicates clearly, keeps patients progressing, avoids unnecessary drama, and creates a good patient experience. Same thing with coaches. Most coaches care way less about letters after your name than people think. Coaches care about, can you help my athlete? Can you keep them participating safely? Do my athletes trust you? Are you easy to communicate with? That's what matters. And honestly, some of the best clinicians I've ever seen are not necessarily the loudest people online or the people constantly listing their credentials. They're just incredibly good at building trust. That's the real currency in sports medicine. Now, this might be one of the most important sections of this entire episode. If there's anything that you take away, I want you to think about these next few points. A lot of young clinicians will constantly ask, how can I network better? And honestly, most people are networking wrong. They immediately start asking for referrals because they've created any value that rarely works. The fastest way to build relationships is to become useful. That's it. Help people. Help people do the things they want to do. You solve problems. You show up consistently. So examples of this. Maybe you have an athlete who has a showcase. Maybe you volunteer at a combine. Maybe you help with return to sport testing at a local school. You provide educational talks to a training staff. You help the strength coaches with setup. You attend the local sporting events for your patients. You support the athletic trainers. Offer value without immediately expecting something in return. One of the best networking strategies earlier in your career, be present. Go to the games. Go to the practices. Even if you don't have a specific relationship with that school, you can still go support your athlete in a meaningful way. Your presence is more meaningful than you know. That leads to people referring to people that they know, and trust is built through repeated exposures. I think that social media has distorted networking a little bit. People think that sometimes networking is just a cold DM, throwing a business card at somebody, putting out a flyer, posting online constantly. When in reality, real networking and getting word of mouth is huge for younger developing athletes. And for those of you who are looking for more relationship building, we need to think about its consistency. It's being reliable over time. It's becoming known as that clinician who's always around and genuinely helpful. That kind of reputation compounds over years and will pay back in dividends. So what do I do when evidence clashes with clinic culture? So this is where a lot of residency trained clinicians struggle emotionally. So you leave residency energized. You're evidence informed. You want to take on the world. You want to improve systems. And then you enter a clinic and you hear, well, this is just how we've always done it. And immediately you're ready to fight their entire system. I get it. I've been there. But one thing younger clinicians need to understand is this. Not every imperfect system exists because people are stupid. Sometimes systems exist because of productivity demands, insurance limitations, staffing issues, burnout, workflow realities, patient expectations. Now, that doesn't mean that you abandon good clinical reasoning, but you also cannot walk into every clinic acting like you are there to intellectually dominate everyone. That approach will fail fast. I think one of the biggest mistakes young clinicians make is weaponizing evidence. Evidence-based practice is not memorizing papers, posting PubMed screenshots online, or trying to win every argument. Real evidence-based practice combines research, clinical expertise, the patient's values, and real-world context. The best way to improve systems is usually more of a gradual influence. We don't want an ego-driven confrontation. Show the outcomes, build the trust, introduce better systems over time. That approach works much better in the long term. So let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk about the non-salary perks. This is something I wish more younger clinicians thought about. Everybody typically focuses on salary, and that's important. But some of the highest value opportunities are actually non-salary opportunities. Some examples of this, we want to think about continuing education budgets. What's your mentorship access like? Is there equipment investments, the facility they plan on putting more equipment into? What are your outreach opportunities? Protected development time, speaking opportunities, and then also sport coverage opportunities. Honestly, mentorship early in your career may be worth more than a slightly higher salary. A strong mentor can accelerate your growth by years. Another big one, access to the performance equipment. Things like force plates, dynamometry, timing systems, what's the quality of the gym, the barbell equipment. Those things help differentiate sports clinics significantly. I also think clinics should start viewing younger clinicians as growth opportunities instead of just a productivity unit. Because younger clinicians, they have the light, they have the fire, they're ready to get into the practice. They can help with content, they can help with outreach. They're more than capable of education, community presence, athlete development. That benefits everybody. And going into that, we need to think about high volume versus high quality care. This is probably, and honestly, this is a soapbox for me. This is probably one of the hardest realities in outpatient sports medicine, especially for residency grads. Because residency often trains you in very high level, detailed, individualized care. Then you enter certain outpatient environments and realize, oh crap, this is moving really fast with very little time to touch your documentation. Now, personally, I do not think that high volume automatically means bad care. But I do think, or I don't think that lower volume automatically means elite. I think the question is, how intentional are your systems? High-level clinicians become efficient because they know how to organize well, they coach well, they know progressions well, they educate efficiently, making a level of understanding appear, and improve patient autonomy. Specialized care is not always about longer visits either. Sometimes it's having a clearer direction, a better exercise selection, better progression timing, better communication. Patients want to feel understood. They want to have a level of organization. They want to know they're progressing. They want to feel confident because you feel confident. And honestly, some clinicians waste enormous amounts of time during visits while still calling it high-touch care. Efficiency is not the enemy. Poor care is the enemy. Those are different things. So enough about my rant. Let's talk about breaking into sports right away. Final topic. So how do you actually get involved with sports teams, schools, and organizations without stepping on people's toes? Simple answer. Respect the ecosystem first. The worst possible thing you can do is walk into a sports environment acting like you're there to save everybody, especially around your new coworkers. Think of it this way. Athletic trainers are often very busy, they're undersupported in some settings, and they're managing enormous responsibility. If you approach them collaboratively instead of competitively, you grow a relationship, and you become a team. So how can you start this? Ask, how can I help? What do you need? Where can I support your system? That mindset matters. I want you to avoid undermining people publicly, acting superior because of your credentials, trying to take over, criticizing existing systems immediately when you step foot on that location. Because instead of becoming a trusted resource, you become more of an enemy. The best sports medicine environments are collaborative. They're not territorial. And honestly, the clinicians who last the longest are usually the people who communicate well, they stay humble, and they consistently provide value. So I hope you guys enjoyed our discussion today. So to close this out, I think the modern sports clinician has to be more than just a rehab provider. You have to become a great communicator, a coach, an educator, a problem solver, and a relationship builder. Residency training and board certification can absolutely accelerate your growth, but long-term success in this profession, still comes down to this: trust, consistency, communication, humility, and the ability to bridge rehab with real-world performance. The clinicians who thrive long-term are usually not the loudest people in the room. They are the people who consistently provide value over time. So if you're a younger clinician listening to this, please stay curious, keep learning, keep showing up, and understand that building a reputation takes time. But if you do it the right way, it compounds. Appreciate you guys listening. I hope to catch you guys in the next episode. And again, congratulations to the University of Dayton Doctor of Physical Therapy class of 2026. Congratulations, you made it.